Who's in the blender? Losers of the divisional round in the NFL playoffs. Biggest surprise for you. We're going to talk window closed for the Detroit Lions.
Man.
What else could it be? It's not. You know when the windows used to slide down when they don't have the that's what's happening in Detroit.
No double panes.
No double panes. Just slowly sliding down. And then who's in the blender when we talk about the AFC and the NFC?
Yeah.
We're on the same page here. We'll talk about it.
Page.
Biggest surprise of the weekend, though, because there was a few, I guess, but mostly there's one big one. But outside of Jayden and Washington, the favorites took care of business. But what's your biggest surprise of the weekend?
Man, it's the obvious. It's number 5 going into Ford Field. I mean, that is such a one-of-one environment. I know it's a dome in a January environment, but that place was rocking. It was humming. And the poise and the just approach. I mean, we're amidst the Australian Open. It's like a youngin coming in, almost not knowing what environment they're in and just playing above the rim. It has to be Jayden Daniels for me, Sean.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good one. The first divisional round with all 4 underdogs covering since 2006. The favorites, I guess Buffalo's an underdog too. So I guess you could put that
First
in there.
time since 78 in the playoffs.
Small underdog. So I guess there were a few more surprises than I want to give credit for. But, yes, I agree. The biggest one is Jayden Daniels, 5. The Commanders. I was shocked. You know why it was so jarring?
Yeah, talk to me.
Because the last time we saw Detroit, Sam Darnold looked like he was playing Pop Warner. Like he had never seen pressure like that before.
That
he had no answer. He was seeing ghosts, right?
Yeah.
He had no answer for what they were bringing at him. And then you fast forward 2 weeks, and this kid has every answer.
Every answer.
Every blitz he had an answer for. You want to play zone? I have the answer. You want to play man? I have the answer. There was the only drive where he didn't have, literally the key was the drive coming out of halftime where they got a 3-and-out stop.
Yeah.
And they went down and scored, and it was a 3-point game, and you're like, okay, party's over, Washington, time to fold it up, all fun and games, and then they continue to put up points on the board outside of every drive after that one.
Do you feel like as Washington continued drive by drive to show up and Jayden continued to look poised, like from a Ben Johnson, and congrats on him, by the way.
Yes, thank you.
Going to Chicago. From a Ben Johnson perspective, was there anything forced offensively? Because Goff did have some errant throws that were non-Goff-esque for this season.
No, I don't think so.
You don't think so?
I think Goff just played poorly, and the fumble was a backbreaker. The entire game changed when he fumbled going in. It was getting ready to be 14-3. If that game is 14-3, the dynamics are completely different. Jayden is now playing from behind. He never played from behind after that 7-3. They went down, scored to go up 10-7. They continued to pile it on after that. The play calling would be different. The feeling on the sideline would be different. Everything, the pressure is ratcheted up for Jayden Daniels. The crowd is more into it. That fumble from Jared Goff was a backbreaker because if they go up 14-3, it's feeling like they're getting ready to, I wouldn't say run these boys out of the building, but they're getting ready to put up a 40-piece, and they're going to be playing from behind instead of the flip where Goff was playing behind. Goff was pressing.
Yeah.
He was behind. You naturally press as an offense
That's true.
if you're playing from behind, especially if you know the Detroit Lions are going to score a lot of points, and that's exactly the feeling I think that Detroit and Goff had and Ben Johnson was. It's clear we're going to have to come out here every single drive and score a touchdown. That is where turnovers breed that mentality.
Yeah, that pick 6 for me was what stuck out. And again, just to throw that guy away from him. The pick 2 also after the score, and then it goes all the way. I don't know if they were quite in the red zone, but he goes on the post to Jameson Williams, throws another pick.
Yeah.
That just seemed like, and then again, you don't get a ton of, like in the NBA, which we watch closely, you could tell these guys' nonverbals a lot more apparently because they're a lot more apparent. In football, it's tough to tell body language as much, but Goff did not have some good body language going in. He was down on himself. He was yelling. And some guys rile from that, but I don't know. JG16 seems like a nice guy.
You know, this is the thing about Goff's body language. I don't think it changed. Like, it looked the same when he threw 5 interceptions. He bounced back in that primetime game and came down and scored. They just the defense couldn't get them a stop.
It was like a pressured look. It was like, oh man, my D's getting banged up. Aaron Glenn is just throwing nothing. Soon to be Jets coach Aaron Glenn throwing nothing defensively at Jayden. But it's just back to that unbelievably poised presence. I mean, when is the last time you've seen a rookie like this in the pocket? Now we're gonna see him in outdoor weather, which is gonna be fascinating. But in these domes, Tampa weather and in the dome last week has just been unprecedented.
I mean, I still am taking it all with a grain of salt because they've been absolutely fortunate the last 10 weeks of the year. The entire season, they've been actually really fortunate. Has he been playing really well, especially in the fourth quarter? Absolutely. He hasn't made any mistakes.
So you're not coming to my fifth best quarterback in the league next year?
No, I mean, he's right there. I think people are forgetting how good C.J. Stroud was last year as a rookie. He didn't do this
There's
in the playoffs.
There's something different about Jayden, though. He's closer to Lamar. Like, CJ's got like Jalen Hurts kind of swag from a leadership coaching perspective.
CJ can
in
throw
my
it,
opinion. I guess what I mean is like the playmaking ability with your feet. It's closer to Lamar than anything I've seen, right?
I would say, and you can take this with a grain of salt if you want to, but I would say as Lamar's 28, pushing 29 now, Jayden's a lot younger, 23, 24, I think. They're almost on the same running level if Jayden was asked to run like that. I think he creates that much time with his feet and gets outside and runs effortlessly. He's only slowing himself up so he doesn't get killed.
100%.
So, yeah,
which is great wherewithal.
His ability to run the rock is special. There's no doubt about it. Speaking of that, on the same token, let's talk about the Lions. Unless you want to talk about Lamar. I do want to talk about that.
I wouldn't mind. I'm still extremely bothered Derrick Henry didn't get 20 carries. I cannot. You watch what this Eagles team did with the Saquon approach, and he beat him the first round. Let's let him beat him again. And I know they kind of came out throwing a little bit, so I don't want to sit here and say they went pound for pound with Saquon, possession in, possession out. But he still got 24, 26 carries-ish? 16 carries for a guy who gets stronger as the boxing match goes on. I'm bothered by it, Sean.
But overall, they ran it more than they threw it. If you look at the box, Justice Hill was getting carries. Lamar was running the rock.
So you weren't that bothered with the game plan?
No, it worked. They turned it over a couple times, which killed him. Now, the defensive pass interference, which is a clear OPI. I'm sitting on my couch.
Tre'Davious White?
Oh, easy.
Oh, my God. Ridiculous.
I'm sitting on the couch. And I'm like, wow, they called OPI. Great.
100%.
I can't believe they called that. That's great. Man, wow, what a call. That's a great call. And then when they came out and went, I was flabbergasted. I didn't understand that. So that was a tough break.
Awful break.
Lamar and the fumble. Like, there's two teams in the NFL. You get inside the 5, you're almost guaranteed to give up 6. It's the Baltimore Ravens.
Yeah.
It's the Buffalo Bills.
Yeah.
And it's the Philadelphia Eagles. All three of those teams have power run games to where you have no answer. You just flat out are going to have a really, really hard time slowing them up from inside the 5, especially you start talking about the 3, 2, 1 yard line.
Unless you get cute.
So, if you go back and I went back and watched the entire game again. First of all, the whole Lamar Jackson thing really has me tilted. The conversation around his name and how that's going down. But if you go back and watch the entire first quarter, Buffalo was kind of bottling up Derrick Henry. They were giving him the rock over and over, and he was getting bottled up a little bit.
A little bit.
So then when they opened it up and started getting Justice Hill involved, also, I don't know if I feel like I'm the only one that's brought this up or has been talking about this with my buddies or on the mic or on wax. And I feel like an idiot even saying this, but I feel like as these years go on, there's multiple spots where I expect Derrick Henry to be on the field, but he's also tapping himself out of the game. I'm watching it. I'm watching him get 1 carry, pick up 9 yards, and ask to be taken out. Then Justice Hill rips one off for 8. Then they give it back to Justice. He rips one off for 8. And then at the end of the game, it's like Derrick Henry has 16 carries. When I saw him ask out multiple times in games. So I think it's a combination. He was getting bottled up. He asked out for a couple snaps that I thought he should be able to string a couple more runs together. Who am I? Nobody. That's my opinion on the carries and the touches. And then in the third quarter, he got it all night long. They went right down and scored. So I think the game plan was there. It was balanced. They ran it more than they threw it, and they ended up being only like 6 or 7 more runs because they had to throw it every play coming down on the last drive.
I feel I hear you because again you go away from your game plan. Also human nature-esque, kind of Baltimore similarly to Detroit because Buffalo came out, but this is Baltimore on the road, and it always comes down to turnovers. So you got to come down on Lamar a little bit in the first half,
no doubt,
without question. I'm disappointed because I feel like Buffalo did Buffalo, in your opinion, do anything great? They just didn't lose the game.
They didn't turn it over.
Yeah, and
they haven't been turning it over. That's been like the whole thing.
And I guess it was one statistician that pointed out like they scored Baltimore in the third quarter, and maybe Pete can find it real quick, but there was a 5-carry drive with Derek. They scored a touchdown. They didn't give him 5 carries any other drive.
That was the third quarter.
Yeah, but that to me it's like you come off a game where you spook yourself last year in the championship with, I think it was Gus Edwards getting like 5 carries. But
overall, the run game was there. He didn't get that many, but they ran it more than they threw it by a wide margin, especially if you look at the numbers going into that fourth quarter. They completely dominated the second half. They were moving the ball at will. They were doing whatever they wanted to do. The defense was playing lights out. They're going to go down and score a touchdown, most likely. Mark Andrews fumbles.
Yeah, I guess I'm just salty because I bet Baltimore. And
no, I was with you.
We both bet Baltimore, but I just feel like it's 2 years in a row where I hear you. You're right to some degree, but at the end of the day, it says 16 Derrick Henry carries, and to me, that's 9 too soon, too short.
Guess how many what the percentage of snaps he played in the game? Do you think it was over or under 60% in that?
Under.
It was under. It was 59.
That's awful. Yeah, to your point, then there's a world where
this might be too granular. See how many snaps he doesn't play third down. So we got to give him that, right?
True.
He doesn't play third down. See how many snaps he missed on like first and second down. Because there was multiple snaps where I'm like, where's Derrick Henry? And he wasn't around. And one of the most mind-boggling things I saw the entire day, outside of the turnovers, they go right down. The third quarter, they played perfectly. They got stops on D. They actually stifled Buffalo.
Picture perfect.
Then they go down. Derrick Henry runs the ball down their throat. Justice Hill's running the ball. They go down and get an easy touchdown. They ran the ball. I think there was 13 plays. They ran the ball 8 of them. Or like 15 plays. They ran like 9 of them. Something like that. Vast majority of the plays were runs. And then they came out for the 2-point conversion, shotgun, and motioned Derrick Henry to an empty. That's like Todd Monken, I don't understand why you would do that. You were getting chunks at will on the ground, and then the 2-point conversion, you come out early in the game. It was 21-19.
Yeah.
But you go for 2, you decide to go for 2, and then if you want to throw it, fine. But like have it be some type of threat of a run.
Does that
to motion him out to empty didn't make any sense.
Yeah, where does that play rank? I mean, hindsight's 2020, but is that the most memorable playoff, I guess, 2-point conversion in our recent memory?
Well, that was the second one of the game.
Yeah, but that was.
I'm not even talking about the last one to tie it to go to overtime where Andrews dropped
you're talking
it.
about
I'm talking about the one in the third quarter where they ran the ball literally 9 out of like 13 plays, and then they got to the 2-point conversion and showed shotgun and motion to empty. The defense literally was just out there for 8 minutes and couldn't stop you while you were running the ball whatsoever. So
I'm seeing 1 Derrick Henry 3rd and 1, 2 Mark Andrews 3rd and 1, 4th and 1.
Yeah,
so they ran that QB sneak thing.
He was doing the QB sneak tush push. But
so do we not even really? I guess do we back Lamar and we don't blame anyone on this loss from a Baltimore perspective? It's not on Monken. It's not on Andrews. It's not on Lamar. It's on the team.
Yeah, I mean, I guess they're all on the team, but. Lamar's going to probably hold the L a lot. I think there's a difference when you turn the ball over and then you go into a shell and play poorly the rest of the game, like Jared Goff. Kind of that's pretty much what Jared Goff did.
Yeah, Lamar did.
I feel like Lamar made up for those turnovers and put his team in a position to go potentially get the D on the field to go to overtime, and they made some other mistakes.
Yeah.
So, tough. The fumble was tough. He just dropped the ball, too. No one really stripped him. He just kind of dropped it. So he'll be back.
how are we looking at, from a biggest surprise perspective? We were both on the Rams with the points. Any thoughts here as Philly gets ready to host an NFC Championship game? I mean, anything you saw from Philly that's making you feel like they're the team to beat, obviously, in the NFC, or are you actually feeling round 3 could be Commanders with the points and then some?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. We got to figure out what's up with Jalen Hurts. The knee did get bent up.
Yeah.
And that's also another perfect example of how all this stuff in football, more than any other game, is correlated. I believe part of the reason that Jalen Hurts got bent up is because he was so focused on protecting the ball because he got stripped a couple possessions before that he's like not like reaching out or like falling like he normally does. He's so focused on covering up the rock, he gets bent backwards a little bit, twists his knee up, and is hobbled a little bit.
Are we still sleeping on Philly, though? That's what I kind of want to get to with you, because we might be gearing up for Mahomes Hurts again.
I don't think we're sleeping on Philly. They're 6-point favorites at home. They can't and are not really interested to throw the ball, but they haven't been asked to throw the ball. They're only going to throw the ball if you make us throw the ball. If you're going to let Saquon run wild and I could run, 2-3 yard crosses and throw for 140 yards and then lean on the defense and Jalen Carter can just wreak havoc in the middle, then we're never going to throw the ball. So
are we talking about a very underrated Fangio, Kellen Moore? Like, is this again? Are we talking about, because that Philly team that went to the Super Bowl lost both coordinators? It was Steichen and Gannon. So, like, is this set of coordinators and this coaching staff? Should we be fearing them just as much as Stevie Spags and Andy Reid?
Well, this set of coaches has Saquon Barkley. That's legitimately going for 150 yards a week. It seems like. Also, when you look at the numbers, advanced or non-advanced for the Commanders, they're the bottom of the league in rush defense. They're like 24th in run DVOA, like 26th in yards before first contact. I mean, Saquon should have a field day with these dudes. So this is going to be a really tough spot for them. If I had to pick it, I would lay the 6 with Philly.
We didn't touch Chiefs, Texans. We both assume
Chiefs,
Kansas City would be in this spot.
Yeah, I mean, we could talk about them running out of the 9.5 point cover, but yeah, I mean, it was
that was actually not enough people talked about it. That was terrible for the books.
Well, and it was
8.5 and 9.5. If it lands on 9, that's not good for the books.
And it was just that number had flipped so late. It was 8.5.
Yeah, it was.
Literally for 6.5, 7 days in a row. So
all right, yeah, let's talk who's in the blender here.
Who's in the blender? Hey man, let me start. NFC North, the entire conference.
The best division in football.
The entire division. And I wanted to bring that up because I've been pounding my chest at how the NFC
still are the best
North,
division in football.
Best division in football in the regular season. They showed up to the playoffs and they all got dusted off.
That's
the
fair.
Lions got dusted.
That's fair.
Vikings got dusted. And the Packers got dusted. All of them. So it's kind of like SEC and bowl season. Like, we're the best SEC or die. And then you guys get to the bowl games and there you guys got murdered. So tough pill for me to swallow to see all of them go down because they were supposed to be the best teams around.
Positive is you got your guy. Got to take a second.
Well,
on the
big
juice
positive.
bar.
Well, I think
Ben Johnson should be on our board here by this time next week. We got half the staff here, Chicagians.
No doubt. So
big moment.
And also the reason I picked the NFC North is because Ben Johnson's in the grinder, Caleb Williams in the grinder, Ryan Poles, that whole front office. The Bears are in the grinder. You got your guy. Word on the streets, they're paying him $13 million per.
Holy cow!
So he got a ton of money. They ponied up to get their guy. He's under immense pressure. The front office is under immense pressure. So the Bears are in the blender. Like, they underperformed last year. New coach. The Lions and Dan Campbell are in the blender because they have to figure out who's gonna now orchestrate and deal with all this talent. They're going to lose They lost Ben Johnson. They're going to lose
Aaron
Glenn, the defensive coordinator. Dan Campbell's got to figure out that out. They're in the blender. Minnesota's in the blender because they went from having a guy they couldn't let go to now people are questioning, is he just same old Sam Darnold? I'm not sold on J.J. McCarthy. They're in the blender. Green Bay, is Jordan Love a max out, top of the line quarterback? They're in the blender for that. And then when you talk about, that's all four. So
going into next year, can you make a case that you'd want to be the Bears here, fresh start with with Benny
Yeah,
J
I mean,
more than any of these other
I'm
teams.
fascinated to see what the odds are going to be to win the NFC North next year.
Yeah.
Like, they're going to be extreme. It's going to be extremely tight 3 ways.
I think this Lions team,
4
for
ways.
me, yeah.
It might be like 250, 250, 250. Like, maybe a little 3 1/4 or whatever, but it's going to be really tight.
Yeah, this Detroit team, because Dan Campbell's not an X's and O's coach. He's a little more like Tomlin. He's kind of the vocal leader.
Not a little more. I don't know if Campbell has seen a defensive or an offensive play sheet since he got there.
Just an incredible leader.
I mean,
he's a great orator.
Yes, he's a purely
that's going to be huge.
Rah-rah culture guy.
Yeah, who comes in, who takes that OC role. Are you more concerned from a Lions perspective, the offense keeping the same 30 points per game offense coming in with the new Ben Johnson, or you think more defensively this is going to be more of a pressing
that's
thing?
why they're in the blender. We got to find out what direction they're going to go. What does Goff look like under a different offensive coordinator? Goff has had success under Sean McVay, one of the best minds, offensive minds in the NFL. The other is Ben Johnson,
He's getting $13 million.
Who's getting $13 million
more than Mike Evans
because he's one of the best offensive minds in the world. So when he gets good coaching, Goff is good. There's just not that many guys around like that.
Are we looking at Jared Goff any differently today? Monday morning quarterback on Tuesday?
Wednesday.
On a Wednesday?
Yeah, I mean, dude, our guy Raheem Palmer says only fake thugs can pretend for so long. Like,
is he not? He's not a Super Bowl quarterback. Like McVay knew this. This exact game is what McVay wanted to avoid.
Well, yeah, McVay told you that there's better guys out there. That's why I'm getting rid of this guy. After they went to the Super Bowl, Mike McDaniel, singular, down in Miami, extended Tua. He believes in Tua. That's what he's saying. McVay moved him and went and got an older guy that was more experienced that he thought could do more. And if you go back and look at that playoff run, Matt Stafford made some throws downfield against Tampa and some other things that a lot of people say Goff probably wouldn't even got to, like progression-wise.
The Goff conversation is a great conversation to have.
The knock on when people were comparing Goff versus Stafford, Goff was like, Reed, I'll get to the second read that's a little more conservative, and I'll go there. Stafford is looking to go deep first, then coming back to like Goff wasn't even getting some of the reads that Stafford would get to. So,
but we are talking about 3 All-Pro offensive linemen, 2 All-Pro running backs.
The roster's still there.
Amon-Ra. They're in the blender though because they got to figure it out.
You know what? If Mike McCarthy was smart, he'd be calling Dan Campbell to try to get the offensive coordinator job in Detroit. That's what if Mike McCarthy was smart, that's what he would do.
I mean, I like it. I feel like McCarthy feels like he's overqualified.
This is the thing about being overqualified, sure. But you'll be one of the top paid offensive assistants in the game. You won't have to deal with
I agree with the take.
If you ask Mike McCarthy what he hates about being a head coach, he would name all the things that he wouldn't have to do in Detroit. He could just sit in a room and figure out with a bowl of candy and figure out how he wants to get the ball to Gibbs, Jamison Williams, and Amon-Ra St. Brown. Like I said, and I know we're going long here. I said this about Eric Bieniemy. Hey, look, man, I know you want to be a head coach. You're latched on to Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid, and there's literally zero expectations from you. I'm not in the building. I actually don't know what you actually – how important you actually are to this whole offensive thing going on in Kansas City. Yeah. But you have the OC title. How about you just stay there and win as many titles as humanly possible until the wheels fall off, and then you go retire?
Where's he at?
Eric
UCLA?
Bieniemy is like
where's he at right
is
now?
like an offensive. Eric Bieniemy is like at UCLA as like an offensive assistant or some nonsense, right? So look, man, sometimes, and men have their own priorities and wants and goals, but man, going to Detroit and dealing with those toys and not having to deal with that owner Jerry Jones and going to just focus on creating offense, that is an awesome job.
Great job. I'm with you.
So
NFC North and the Lions in the blender.
In the blender. That's who's in the blender. That was a great conversation.